Welcome back, everyone, to the recaps for Dynamic Character Productions Season 4 mini Sahara Dunes. As always, I am your host, Alex Trias, and with me today, I got production member Greg, and we have a newbie here. You may have recognized her as the runner-up for Ear Ricky Island. It's Celestina. Celestina, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be here, excited to talk about this season. It's an amazing cast, so I'm ready to get down and dirty.
Well, I know you were very tentative when you loved playing the game, but do you feel more comfortable being on this side?
Yeah, I mean, because I feel for, especially in like the first challenge, I definitely feel for all of the contestants, like that anxiety watching it. I was like, it's hard to kind of go back and watch it again. The challenges from the first two episodes of the season, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember being there myself. So I definitely feel for them.
Yeah, and then before we get started, we'll be saying all the names of people that are on here, but you in particular do have a connection that is on this cast. Spoiler alert, they're one of the people who went home this week, but would you like to speak on it?
Yeah, so I'm really good friends with Matt DC. I know Matt through our local Seattle Survivor chapter, and for people who don't know that, it's a Seattle group that watches Survivor together at a pub. And so that's how we met each other. He's a super big fan of the show, and he does a lot of different minis. I mean, he's been doing like minis, I only did one mini, which was the last season, but he's been doing a lot. He was like in some sequester minis, those types of things. So very familiar. So I figured might as well send him over the information for the season. And unfortunately, he has a great personality. So he's like, yeah, I'll volunteer to be the first, person to go for the challenge. And well, we see how that worked out. Such a wonderful person. And I mean, you could even see, even though, he went home, you could see how wonderful his personality is. Such an infectious person. Like such a wonderful, wonderful guy. So, I mean, it was great to at least see him briefly.
Absolutely. But yeah, we get into it. We see our mini hosts, Lauren and McKenna, back on our screens. We have two new tribes, 14 people. We got the Maziwa tribe, that is John, Danny, Matt, Robbie, Kylie, Madeline, and Alanis. And then we have the Damu tribe, which is Sean, Michael, Erik, Landon, Sherry, Jordyn, and Victoria. A lot of newbies, a lot of fresh faces, some people with some more experience, a lot of people hiding their experience, and a hidden connection between two of the castaways in Robbie and Alanis, who Robbie has played a game with Alanis's father. So they know of each other. I don't know the specifics of their relationship, but it's interesting having these dynamics in there. The people that are experienced people like Matt, like Sherry. Sherry was very upfront about her experience. Matt was deciding to hide it. Robbie decided to hide it. It's very interesting to see how for a lot of these people how it'll turn out. Well, mainly for Robbie, because another spoiler alert. If you haven't watched the episode, stop what you're doing right now. Go and watch them, then come back here. We'll still be here. We see two veterans in Matt and Sherry go back to back to start this season, which I did find a little shocking because you would think with veteran experience, Greg, you would think they should be able to understand how to navigate this early portion. Even if they don't do a challenge, they should be able to figure out how to maneuver this.
Yeah, I completely agree. I thought it was really interesting. With Matt, he just his tribe didn't really have a lot of time to build the relationships to figure out who they wanted to work with. So kind of having that unfortunate run in that first challenge for Matt, it really put the target big on his back. So he would have had to do a lot of work, which, with or without the experience, it's kind of hard. If you stand out like a sore thumb that early on, it's really easy to get dogpiled and just be the first one voted out unanimously too. So it's hard. And he did fight for it. He tried to pin the vote on Alanis, but it didn't really seem like that was going to work out for him. But I thought what's interesting is Sherry, as the veteran, kind of came in really strong. And I thought that maybe her experience would have told her to sit back a little bit, but maybe she just couldn't give up control maybe that she's used to having in some other games. Maybe the games that she plays before like aren't so newbie dominated, because I think this cast has like 10 or 11 new players. So, you know, and Erik pretty clearly stated it in episode 2. Sherry organizes games like this. She's played several of them. Like, that's a threat to someone like Erik, who has never done anything like this. So, you know, anything you can do to stand out is usually bad for you in Survivor. You want to fit in as often as possible. So
yeah, you never want to be this. Yeah, you never want to be the square trying to get into the round hole. Right. You want to chip off those edges so that you could just slide right in. But as all of us being Survivor fans, what better way to jumpstart this game than to have a cameo from an African Survivor Africa legend in T-Bird? Like, so if you were able to get down your season to have like basically a Survivor celebrity come in and give this recording for you all, they wish you all good luck, how would that feel for you? Like, would that jumpstart you to be like, oh, I'm ready to play now? Or would you just be like, oh my God, we just got to see T-Bird?
I mean, both. I'd be like, iconic. Oh my gosh, connections, right? That's what I would think. I mean, I'd be really excited. I think it kind of did fuel everybody. Everybody had happy faces on. So, I mean, I think it kind of just was like, oh yeah, I'm ready to start, you know. I mean, and it definitely had an impact because of, you know, like clues are everywhere, which if you're ever going to play a mini, pay attention to your surroundings. Don't be like me and just kind of like, oh, I don't know what, you know, like actually take a look. And if T-Bird's on here, it's probably for a reason, not simply just to say like, hello.
Yeah. And then inspired by T-Bird and her endurance challenge where she sings her favorite song, McKenna made a clue and read it out loud that was inspired by that, which in it, obviously, we find out had hidden in it a clue for a legacy advantage, which can only be used at Final 6. We do end up finding out that it's Erik on the Damu Tribe who has found it, even though I think Danny was also pretty close to finding it later on, but got the nothing for you. There was no one like in Celsius season that publicly wrote out safety texts or anything. Shout out to Tom. But with that, we give the whole clue. People are like a little suspicious of it, but we go straight into the challenge. And I love the challenge, like the premise of it. You guys did a sort of version of it on your season where you had 5 members in a relay style have put playing cards on top of cups. The last cup has remained open face, and you have to use a pencil to guide a ping pong ball down the L-shaped bridge into that cup. Once all 5 people do it successfully, you send the 2 people out to the breakout room, or your final 2 people in the breakout room, to solve a word puzzle, which ends up being your flame stays lit tonight. Straightforward challenge. No issues at all. It was a very quick challenge. Everyone did great during it, right? Right, Greg?
No way. I'm being there live in the moment. I mean, that it took a lot longer than however long it looked like on camera, like in the episode. Yeah, Matt definitely struggled with it. It seemed like the Maziwa tribe had a strategy where they wanted to have the sides of the cards like folded up or something like that to kind of create almost like a bumper, thinking like a bowling alley. But I don't know if he didn't fold them enough or if he didn't fold them at all, but he did not have his finest day out there, which is tough. But I mean, even still, the word puzzle was really tough. I mean, that took forever. And, it was an unconventional phrase. It's not something that you typically hear on Survivor. It's in that whole world of, your flame staying lit. Fire represents your life in this game. Yeah. But I mean, Erik and Landon, they were in there for a long time. It, again, might not look like it on the episode, but it was probably a good 30, 45 minutes that they were working on that puzzle.
For sure. And we do also realize the reason why Landon volunteered to do the puzzle, because he normally wouldn't.
Right.
But he had none of the supplies.
Right.
I loved that.
Oh man. So
that's like dealing with the elements, right? It's just what you got to do what you can, and you might get thrown into something you can't because you're not fully prepared.
Yeah, well, Landon and Robbie were alternates for this season. Robbie was actually the very last minute. Someone had to drop. And so he got brought in literally, like he says in the episode, like 6 minutes before we start.
Sure.
He comes in, but luckily he's played these games before, so he has a lot of this material. But he was smart about it. He decides, I'm going to be on the puzzle because most likely, win or lose, someone's going to mess up, and it's not going to be because of the puzzle. It's going to be because of someone can't do the L shape. So a very smart read on Robbie's part to volunteer there.
Very smart.
Keeps him out of being an easy first vote. But with Landon, he actually was told in advance. So I don't know what happened, but for whatever reason, he didn't have the ping pong balls at the minimum. So we see he's able to get skirt by these first 2 rounds without people realizing it. We'll see what happens as we move forward into this game, because obviously, if he gets to that individual immunity phase, he's going to need some of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny in the second episode. Sherry's like, she was kind of wondering. She was like, I told them I was good at slide puzzles. I don't know why they didn't put me on the slide puzzle, and Landon had to do it because he didn't have the supplies for anything else. I guess he could have done the plank, but
he also could have sat.
Or could have sat out. You're right.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I mean, it's not too late to, like, I don't know, have a friend bring you over ping pong balls or something.
Yeah.
My ping pong balls arrived literally like 5 minutes into our thing. Like I ordered it on Amazon. Like I did the like express like day shipping.
Mm-hmm.
So it came right on time. And I was like, oh, perfect. So, it's not too late.
Yep. So future players, Amazon Prime, your ping pong balls.
But yeah, so we see a lot of people do struggle, like not as much as Matt did. But like the notable things we see here are obviously Matt taking a very long time to complete it, and unluckily being the first person to go as well. So nerves are definitely kicking in as well while you're trying to remain as composed as possible. But we also see Kylie's internet having some issues there. Fortunately for her, she's able to get back in time to be able to participate in the challenge. They're able to get to the puzzle, but by that point, Landon's coming back in, gives the guess, and Landon and Erik are correct. Damu wins, and we do also see in that breakout room Landon and Erik deciding, we're here for 40 minutes because we can't figure out this puzzle. Let's have an agreement to not go after each other if we lose. Which is smart. Like if you're isolated, people are already going to assume that you're talking, so you might as well talk.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So
especially in games like this are so fast, whatever time you get with people, use it wisely. And you see that actually in episode 2 as well, with Maddie volunteering to go into the duo decision room with Robbie. She was like, I saw Robbie go in. I want to go in with Robbie. Robbie's someone I want to talk to. I want to like have that separate time with him that I'm not going to get otherwise. So you're right. You got to make the most of every moment in games at a pace like this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So smart.
Yeah, so we first hear from the winning tribe, Damu, and most of it's a lot of people just being like, oh, thank God we're not the first group that's going. We feel good with each other so far. Like notable things I see here is more so like Erik saying he didn't want to do the puzzle, but he also didn't want to, like similar to Robbie, didn't want to be on the physical side of it, mess up, and suddenly you're the name on the chopping block. Whereas like if you mess up on the puzzle, it was a hard puzzle. They just spent 40 minutes on it. It's not as big of a deal there. Like there's other things you can skirt around. And then we also hear Victoria, and it sort of like leads into the second episode with her talking about like she wants to be more reserved. She's a little soft spoken at the moment. She's new to Survivor, but she's noticing the bigger personalities like a Sherry, who like during the challenge was giving Matt tips, even though they're not on the same tribe. And that leads into Maziwa. So Robbie, I think we could pretty clearly say, is taking over this portion of the episode. Like, basically everyone knows Matt's going. So we're leading into, like, even though no one loves an episode where the person who's going is going, but there's art in it when you can set up stuff for the future. And we see a lot of, while Matt's trying to be in the breakout room with John, giving out any names, Robbie's like, you know what? I'm getting to hang out with all these like women so far. There's a disproportionate amount of men and women. how about I link up with the girls? Let me link up with Maddie, Alanis, and Kylie, and let's roll. But he's also doing a lot. Like he wants Matt gone, not just because of the performance, but because he heard Sherry talk to him, and without looking up, Matt like responded back to her. And that could have been just happenstance. Maybe Matt's very good with names, but I think Robbie was just able to figure out, well, they may know each other. They may have other experience, because I also have experience. I'm not telling anyone I do, but he's like reading on. He's very like looking into things. But he has to lie about the third kid. It's a Australian Survivor callback. He wanted to have, he does have 2 children, but he made up the third so he could lie on someone's name that isn't real.
I think that's fun. It's harmless, and it's just fun. It's good TV. It's something that he could use down the road if he ever needs to, lying on the third kid. He even mentioned, I think, that it was just something that kind of came to him in the moment, so he just rolled with it, which just shows that he's quick on his feet. He can improvise, which I think is the makings of a good Survivor player. Definitely an entertaining character for our TV screens. I thought it was a fun move.
Yeah, for sure. And Celestina, what are you thinking about all of Robbie's antics here, and like sort of like his reasonings as he's going through this portion of the game?
Yeah, I mean, I really love him as a character. I mean, first of all, MVP for the background of like his background, at least, because that really makes that adds to the spectacle and the ambiance of his character, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, I'm loving, like, you can tell that there's going to be a lot of things that are going to happen this season that are going to involve him, or it's going to have him in some aspects. So we're really kind of like setting up for that. I do think later it's probably going to like backfire. I think that, we're going to probably see something happen with him because of, all the things that he's involved in, but it's great to see it now. And I think that he's doing a really good job at kind of being like, planning for the future. I think, out of everybody, I think he's kind of the one so far that he's really looking at the future and seeing how it's going to, impact him. And we see a little bit more of that in episode 2, where he's like, okay, I want to create this alliance. And then if I need to, throw them under the bus. So he's really kind of taken a look at that. And so it's very entertaining for me to watch.
Oh, absolutely. If not anything else, like Robbie is a very intelligent guy. And I've gotten to talk with him multiple occasions. He used to do some of the recaps early on with season 1 and 2 of our minis. So very intellectual, very studious of the game itself, and has played before. And he's done well in the games that he has played. So it's very interesting following along. And plus, like you said, he's such a character. He's having a fun time. Like, he's not there to be boring. He's not there to just play the game. He's like, I'm gonna have fun while I'm doing it, because why be bored?
Exactly. Yeah.
So we get the tribal. We go for the pleasantries. Unfortunately, Matt goes 6-1. He places his vote on Alanis because that's the name he just decided, like, I just have to throw a name, so Alanis, but why not? But we see Matt go first boot of Sahara Dunes. Very fun, bubbly guy. I wasn't there in person for this mini. I was not able to be part of production for this, but I know Matt of Matt. I've seen him in other orgs. I love his personality. He's very, very fun. I wish we could have seen more of him, but sometimes it's Survivor. Anything can happen.
Exactly.
But,
yeah.
like, any final thoughts though, Celestina, on your friend Matt?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I do want to give him a shout out for is because in my season, people like to stay in the room, and he actually, even though he knew it was probably himself, like, that's the best thing you can do, is just say, you know what, I'm going to go into a different room, and someone could come into that room with me and have something. So props to him for actually going into a different room and trying to make something happen versus kind of just sitting there and being like, so this is awkward. Like, it might be me, but so I just want to give him props for that, because, I know we always complain about it, everybody being in the same room. So he actually tried something.
Yeah. And I'm also going to give him a shout out for not having anyone on his tribe decide to spend a portion of their scramble round talking about Chipotle. So I appreciate that at the minimum. Greg, any final thoughts on our first boot?
Yeah, great character. If things had gone differently and they won that first challenge, she could have gone a lot further. I was curious about the target on Alanis instead of maybe someone like Kylie. You see often in orgs, people who have internet problems often become targets because you don't want it to screw you down the road. And maybe it'll come back to bite the Maziwa tribe that they didn't get rid of Kylie. If anything from that first challenge happens again for her, she could get toast or one of her tribe mates could get screwed. So it was just an interesting target, but you know what? He tried. You have to commend him for that. Would love to see him play another game, get a second chance.
Yeah, of course. I would love to see that. You don't see a lot of people that are like first boots or early merge people, but there's a lot of good characters and good players that still go out early. So it'd be interesting to see if he ever would want to play again for us. Or, if the time's right, you never know with dynamic character productions. We always have something going on, always something cooking. But we're moving on to episode 2. I'm lying to these people. Obviously, Robbie, but when won't it be? So we jump into the immunity challenge. They see that Matt was the first boot, but immediately Lauren goes, both tribes in the next minute have to nominate 2 people, and they're going to be responsible for making a big decision that will impact both tribes. We see Maziwa, it's like sort of like people aren't sure, but everyone starts leaning towards Robbie because Robbie talked a lot during the first round. A lot of people are feeling good energy with Robbie here, which shows that Robbie's playing a good game at the moment because a lot of people want to work with him. So he gets nominated, and immediately after he gets nominated, Maddie immediately raises her hand. She's like, I'll go. Like, I'll be the second one. So that's how we get our 2 people for Maziwa. Damu originally silent, and then suddenly Sherry just goes out and says, you know what? Erik and Landy were in there for a long time doing the puzzle. That we should just let them do it. And obviously no one else is going to go like, no, I think it should be someone else. They're like, okay, cool. What did you guys think of Sherry just very boldly making the decision for the group?
Hey, I love a woman trying to take leadership. I don't see anything wrong with that. It's just sometimes about like the how you go about it. No problem with Sherry being the leader. I think maybe if she had kind of given her tribe some room to discuss and maybe thrown out it, hey, what do you guys think about Landon and Erik, rather than just saying it's going to be Landon and Erik, just instead of making the decision, kind of leading in a different style may have helped her out a little bit better, because it ticked some people off, it seemed like, or just put some people on edge about her.
I agree with Greg. I think it was the approach mostly, like I think that definitely, you were like what Greg was saying. Oh, I am, putting out there maybe these 2 people. What do you think? Because as someone who was in that situation where someone nominated me for something, I was like, well, I can't say no now, so it would have been nice to be like, hey, what do you think of this?
Right.
Oh yeah, and like we do see like it was well intentioned there. Like Sherry was like, I wanted them to be there and I wanted to be adamant about it because I want them to believe that I truly trust in them at this early part of the game, and then we can be a 3 and have pool whatever we need to pool. It's just like he said, the delivery was a little wrong. Like we do know she was like she had other things going on in that house at the same time. But I love the moments of the 2 different groups, the 2 duos coming in. We get one, and they're very opposite. We have Maddie and Robbie going in, and Maddie immediately she's like, I want this because I don't know how many one-on-one time we're going to get. I want to work with you. And Robbie's immediately like, I am down. This is exactly what I wanted to hear. I want to work with you. I want to work with the other girls. They're Team the Canada. Ones I'm vibing with. Yeah, Team Canada right there. But we immediately pan over to Landon and Erik, and Landon's just freaking out. He's just like, well, if they didn't think we're a duo, now they are gonna think we're a duo. We're fucked. But then we hear McKenna and Lauren explain to both of them, like, well, this is the challenge. So there's 6 different activities that the tribes are going to go head to head, one person versus one person. You're not supposed to know, like, you don't know what the order is going to be, but those are the 6 challenges that are there. So we know that there's a cup flip challenge, the cup stack with the note cards challenge, a 3x3 slide puzzle, a plank, ping pong balls into the cup and tossing cards into a cup. And it was the duo's responsibilities to pick who did which activity for their tribe. And obviously for Damu, they had to pick which person would not be competing. So they do all that, they get through it, and we go into our heads to head. We start with the index cards. It's two of the captains. It's Erik versus Robbie. Takes a little bit, but Robbie wins it. Very straightforward. So that's 1-0 to Misawa. They end up taking a 2-0 lead after Danny beats Michael in the plank. But I gotta commend Michael here for doing a plank in what's essentially skinny jeans.
Yes.
Like props to you, my man, because like if someone told me I had to do a plank in jeans, I'm like, I ain't lasting long, buddy.
It's not comfortable.
No, it's not comfortable at all. But we do get Damu on the board next, where Sherry beats John in the card cup toss. I would not be good at that challenge. You could not. No matter how much time I practice, I will never be good at throwing cards.
Good to know. I'll remember that one, Alex.
Yeah, as if we'll ever play together, man.
I
know. But then slide puzzle, Landon, who obviously picks it for himself because he has none of the materials. versus Maddie. Maddie wins it very quickly. And then Damu secures the win when Alanis beats Sean at the ping pong balls. They win 4-1. Misawa wins immunity, safe from tribal council. Damu will be losing someone tonight. Mm-hmm. And really what we hear through the winners of the Misawa tribe, we hear a rehash of Maddie saying like, this sort of works out perfectly. We're safe. I got to have my one-on-one time with Robbie. I feel good with him. I feel good with the other women. Alanis feels good with Kylie. And this is where we find out Alanis says how she knows Robbie, and that they're both deciding to play it off as if, why would we know each other? Which is smart on their end. And I think ideally, if we had Robbie like locked in, we probably would have had Robbie and Alana start on opposite tribes, because just like our MO is usually, if we know people have some sort of connection, we'll start them off on separate tribes. If they're able to maneuver the game to get together at a merge or a swap, then like that's on them. Like, good for them for being able to do it. And also, it doesn't always mean that you're going to work with someone just because you know them. Yeah. Like we see it time and time again in these games. Like we see connections, but just because you knew them, gotta vote them out at some point.
Yeah, I mean, Celestina voted out someone that she knew in her season as well, just because you got to do what you got to do. You got to do it to get to the end.
It's a cutthroat game.
There it is.
Yeah, and Celestina, one of the most cutthroat people of the game.
I know, right? That's the hard part.
Yeah, never shed a tear when she voted someone out.
It would be really hard. I mean, all these people this season are like so amazing. I feel like it would be worse this season because like everybody is so nice, and there's like a lot of women too. So like I feel like yeah, it's good.
Yeah, you know what? Let's. I was gonna mention that to you. Like, we always strive to try to get as many women on our casts as we can, just to like make it as most authentic to Survivor, where it's that even split. Like, obviously, you were in a season where there was only two other girls outside of you. You were the only one that made the merge, so having to navigate where it's like, you don't want to believe that, oh, it's just going to be a gender thing. Like, but was there ever that like thought in your mind when you were playing the game, just like, oh, they could easily just vote me out because like if they want to do like a guy thing, or they're just like, oh, well, she's the one thing that's different. That's an easy thing.
I wasn't really thinking that. I mean, maybe at the beginning I was like, I noticed, I was like, oh, just kind of like from the outskirts, like it looks like there's not a lot of women, so that could be something. And especially me being like on a tribe, and like I wasn't on the tribe with like, you know, Meredith and McKenna's mom, so it was like, you know, kind of navigating that and being like, oh, well, you know, and then we didn't go to tribal, so it's like, okay, well, maybe now that we have a relationship, you know, and like we've built relationships, I wasn't as worried about it because we were in that position. So I wasn't as worried, but I think at the beginning, like if it could have went a different way, it might have made more of a difference to me, but I wasn't worried just because like as the game progressed. But at the beginning, it was definitely a thought that went in my mind.
Yeah. So we're now over with the Damu Tribe. And originally, well, Erik's immediately not thrilled. He's just like, I didn't want to be in the spotlight this early. And Sherry just like put me in the spotlight, and me and Landon essentially like they feel like they lost the challenge because they put the people in their spots. Both Landon and Erik didn't win their competition. So like he's nervous. We hear from Sherry, and Sherry wants to work with Erik and Landon. But we get that breakout room where you see 6 people, and that's because Michael was pulled for a confessional. And you always hear it, but you never truly believe like when someone goes like, oh, well, there's 6 of us here. One person's in confessional. And Sean just half jokingly goes, wouldn't it be savage if we just voted him out? Because he's not here.
Yeah.
And like Sherry runs with it. She's like I don't have none of them have issues with Michael, but they're just like, make an easy vote. If that's how you want to go, sure, let's do that. But they're all staying in the same room until Sherry makes a random org to send the people that she doesn't want to work with into a breakout room, and keeps on Landon and Jordyn to talk with them because she wants to work with them. Yeah. It's sort of ironic though, because her doing that opened up her own demise in the game.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it was a good theory. It was a good idea, kind of, but like again, the like implementation of it was not like well executed. And then also like she didn't know, they were like, I think she had like this faith that like she even says, oh yeah, I'm super confident that Victoria and I don't remember the other person are going to vote with me. Yeah, Sean, but you barely know it. These people. So how do you have like this much confidence in people you haven't even talked with yet, And I'm just really like, I'm so happy that like Erik just was like taking initiative, because I would have felt so bad for Michael, who's just like no fault of his own, production, just chose him at that moment. It could have been anybody. And, I'm so glad that he was like, no, we're not doing this. Cause I would.
Oh yeah. For sure. And like they can't blame me this time. So like good luck with this cast blaming me. But what I think Sherry was probably hopeful for was because at the time when she does the split, Erik's in confessional, Michael's back in that room. She's probably thinking Erik will finish and come to the breakout room that she's in with Landon and Jordyn, but instead he goes to the one that has Michael, Sean, and Victoria. And Victoria's already talking, and we see in the confessional, she's like, Sherry's trying to do too much. She's obviously trying to take control over the group. Like that's why she sort of made the decision instead of having a conversation with us. Like if you're going to do it, at least be sly about it. So like, you already had Victoria, who was probably talking to them in that breakout room about Sherry before Erik comes in. But Erik coming in, choosing that room, and also like backing up Victoria there, being like, yeah, I want Sherry gone. And then you have Michael and Sean there that are just like, sure, it's not me. I'll go with a vote that ensures that we're not going.
Yeah.
Cleans their hands of it. But Jordyn's like very like down to work with Sherry until she finds out like about when Sherry goes into her confessional, everyone else comes back into the room and be like, hey, we all decide we're voting Sherry. Do with that what you will. And then they all bounce. But like, I thought it was interesting because it goes back to that men versus women thing where Jordyn's talking to Sherry when it's just the two of them. She says like she wants to keep the testosterone under control and get another man out, just so that then it would even up the numbers a little more between the men and women. Then you can navigate. But because you do actually see a lot of these women go into confessional, and Robbie going into confessional say, I want a women's alliance to happen in this game. So it's very interesting. A lot of people that are on the same page, but at the same time, they know when they need to back off. Because like Jordyn could have fought for Sherry, but she chose, why risk my like spot in the game for one person? If I go with this vote, it gives me chance to maneuver more. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like that gets us into the vote. Sherry goes 6-1. Yep. She's a second boost to Sahara Dunes. She was a big character while she was in the game for the short amount of time she was here. Very interesting to have her just for the dynamic wise of it, like not trying to do the ka-ching there because of dynamic character productions, but still. But Celestina, do you have any final thoughts on Sherry, our second boot?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that, I think what I will say about Sherry is that I think a lot of her moves are well intentioned. Like, I think if it worked, if like the approach was better, it could have been really interesting. Because I even thought about, like, when I was watching how she kind of broke up and had people go into different rooms, I said that would have been a nice thing to have like during our season, just so we can get to know each other. But if it was implemented better, like saying, hey, like we should all just kind of get to know each other in like, different groups, that might be kind of a fun experience. So then that way people aren't afraid to, kind of venture out and like talk to different people. But again, I think it was the approach and, with what she did in choosing the representatives for the tribe and like, other things, people are saying, oh, it's just another thing to add to kind of the list of reasons why we should, go with this plan to vote her out. So I think, again, it's just the implementation and the approach, but I think that the intention was there and she had some really like good ideas that if they were accomplished in a different way, it could have been really interesting to see.
Yeah. And Greg, your final thoughts?
Yeah, I was gonna say I agree. I mean, both of these episodes is like a tale of two tribes. They both had someone who stood out, and that person wound up getting the boot. One was a challenge-based standout. One was kind of that social strategic standout of someone taking a leadership position that not everyone was fully on board for. It was also interesting to see that just how maybe an hour in real time can change what that scrambling looks like, where in that first episode it was kind of like, okay, we have to base it off of the only thing we know, let's go for Matt. The Damu tribe just had that extra hour of getting to know each other in the breakout rooms and holding rooms and one more challenge, where they were a little bit more like Ching dynamic in how that they were playing the game and moving around, and the vote moved around like a little bit and people had differing opinions on really not wanting to get out Sherry, like Jordyn had mentioned, but having to kind of go with the flow and give up some power there. So it was really interesting. I thought Sherry was a fun character to have on. I always love the older woman archetype playing Survivor. I love my Lisas and Denises and Chrissy's and everything like that. So Sherry was my fantasy pick. I wanted to see her go further, but I think the Damu tribe made the right call here. Otherwise, Sherry could have. If you give her too much ground to work with, she'll run you over.
Oh, yeah. For sure. I don't know with this specific cast if she would be able to play that dominant style game and get away with it and get to that end, especially with how our seasons normally end with our final immunity challenge. We never know. But it would have been interesting to watch. 2 veteran players gone, but that wraps up our 2 episode recaps. But before we conclude this recap, as always, every season, we do MVPs for the week. So for the first 2 episodes, each of us are going to name an MVP. And then by the end of the season, whoever has the most MVPs will be the MVP of Sahara Dunes. So because he's already thinking about it, and I know he doesn't have an answer right away, Greg, who is your MVP for the first week?
Damn. I am torn. I'm torn between 2 people. But I won't mention who the runner-up is because I don't want them to feel bad for not getting it. I'm gonna give it to Robbie. I thought Robbie was just really entertaining. I thought he played. He had some interesting moves that I thought connected him well with people. It's setting him up well with some social connections that he can hopefully rely on in the future to make some strategic moves and decisions. It could come back to bite him, which I'm nervous about, but I think Robbie kind of had the standout for me in these first 2 episodes.
Oh, Celestina, who is your MVP? Your favorite player that you got to watch these first 2 episodes?
Well, I'm not going to say Robbie. Robbie was definitely a up there and a contender. I think I'm not going to say Erik, even though I applaud Erik. I think he was the protagonist of his tribe in the second episode. And I do want to shout out the fact that and appreciate the fact that I feel like, and this is a lesson for people, everyone who's playing the game, is that sometimes if you have an initial instinct about someone, there might be another person who has that instinct too. So the fact that he said, hey, like, what about like Sherry, you know? And then people were like, yeah, I've been feeling the same way. So I really liked that and appreciated that. But I have to go with a female. I have to go with a girl. So let me pull up my notes here because I had it on. Oh, yes. I'm going to go with Madeline. The reason why is because she initiated also a conversation. She took that initiative to talk with Robbie and say, you know what? I want to work with you. And I love that in a game, like, you know, a woman just taking control and saying, you know what, like, I'm going to, you know, have this conversation. I think that that's super important. I also love that. Like, I feel like she has like a good grasp on the game. She's also super like, compassionate. And I think that, you know, when she was talking, she had the best confessional literally of like the first episode when she was talking about Matt and saying like, oh, you know, I sympathized with them. I had like this compassion. However, you know, and so like she has these like she's able to like, you know, play into the compassionate side, but she's also not afraid to be like, you know, cutthroat and ruthless if she needs to be. So I think she has all of those different qualities that I think would make a really good, you know, Survivor winner. And I think that she's going to be well positioned in the game to like, you know, do some really good moves. And I think that if she does do this like female alliance with Robbie, I don't think she'd have a problem cutting Robbie, you know, at the end and being like, you know what, let's do this, like, you know, this without him. So, I mean, I'm seeing some really good, you know, some good vibes coming.
Well, that's awesome. You both said two people that I was like, that were on my list. And you guys explained it very well. Like Robbie, like just through episode 1 and the beginning of episode 2, when you get to see him, it's like, is he doing a lot? Yes. But you know what? If you can get away with doing a lot, do a lot and be entertaining TV while you're at it. And he was absolutely doing that. Madeline, I absolutely agree. She was on my list. She like took advantage of situations when she could, which is great, especially in a mini where those little moments are so important to go for longevity in these games that are so fast paced. You have to take advantage of those opportunities. And in both challenges that she was particularly involved in, she crushed easily. So I definitely agree there. But I was stuck also between Erik and Victoria for their execution of getting Sherry out. But I'm going to lean with Erik because he also, within these 2 episodes, gets that legacy advantage, has been hush about it. No one on his tribe is talking about it. And if he can get himself to 6 and he's in danger and no one knows about it, he can control that round. So like, I'm sort of like looking to the future there. I'm going to give it to Erik. So there we have it. We have a 3-way tie at the top with Erik, Robbie, and Madeline. I love this. All great picks. It's a very fun cast, a very fun first week of Sahara Domes. So if you want to keep watching, though, we air new episodes every Monday and Thursday. If they're available, we'll get exit interviews of the booted contestants during the week after their episode has aired. And obviously, you'll have my recaps every Sunday night. But if you want to follow us on social media, our social media manager, Greg, where can they find us?
Sure. So come over and follow us on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok at DCP_org. Or you can follow us on Facebook at Dynamic Character Productions. Honestly, check us out everywhere because there's always little like different bits of content coming out. I'd say we're probably most active on Instagram and Facebook. But yeah, happy to have you wherever you want to follow along.
Yeah, and if you join our Facebook page, that's where you'll also be able to know immediately when new episodes have been airing, as well as when we put posts out for questions for our exit interviews. And it's just able to drive conversation during the season. If you want to post something, post, and we can have a conversation started. That's what we want as a part of Dynamic Character Productions, as well as if you're watching this on YouTube right now, make sure you press that like button and press subscribe and hit that bell for all notifications so you know when new episodes are airing the moment that they drop. So I want to thank again my guests, Greg and Celestina. Greg, we always know where we can find you, but Celestina, where can the people find you? What are you up to?
Yeah, well, you can find me, on multiple places. I'm on Instagram, Celestina Hendrickson. I have a bookstagram. So like if you want to see all the books I'm reading, that's linked on my Instagram as well, along with my puppy Instagram. um, so you can see everything that my puppy's up to. But I'm also a part of the Survivor Specialist, and McKenna and I are doing weekly recaps of The Amazing Race. So if you're a patron of the Survivor Specialist, you can listen to that. If you're not, well, that's what you should probably be doing with your life, because there's amazing content on there that's being distributed each week. And so I highly encourage you to be a part of that community, because it's amazing and it's a great thing to do when, especially during the pandemic and beyond.
Well, thank you so much, Celestina. Thank you, Greg. And thank you, all of you, the listeners who came in and watched this podcast. We will see you next time.